British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain needed to get the proportion of the man at the point when he ventured out to Munich to meet with Adolf Hitler in 1938. At first, frightful of a whole new world war, Chamberlain left Germany certain and fulfilled that he completely comprehended what the German Führer had as a primary concern. Hitler, he accepted, was a man who could be trusted. History, however, refuted Chamberlain disastrously. Not many of us will ever make a character judgment of such significance. In any case, we do make decisions about strangers constantly. At work, at parties, or even on the road, we draw in with individuals of alternate points of view, foundations, and presumptions. We are continually compelled to translate the words, expectations, and characters of individuals we don't generally have a clue. What's more, in all actuality, we are fantastically awful at getting strangers. We reliably overestimate our capacity to pass judgment on strangers. Solomon is a bail judge in New York State. His work accompanies profound duties, which he pays attention to. He peruses litigants' documents, obviously, yet he likewise realizes that it is so essential to converse with them and look at them without flinching. All things considered, a document won't depict the polished, dead-peered toward gaze that is an indication of mental unsteadiness. It won't uncover the sneakiness reflected in the inability to look. Lamentably, with regards to evaluating individuals, Solomon and his judges fared more terrible than machines when this quality was tried against them. In a recent report, Harvard financial expert Sendhil Mullainathan inspected bail choices in New York. He gave a man-made brainpower program a similar essential data. The judges had gotten age and a criminal record and solicited it, who from the 554,689 litigants ought to get bail. The outcome: the litigants discharged by made a decision, all things considered, were 25% bound to carry out wrongdoing while out on bail than those the PC would have chosen. Judges figure they can assess strangers dependent on the look in their eyes and a discussion. Truth be told, we as a whole feel that. In any case, we're fiercely arrogant about our capacity to make character decisions dependent on this unstable proof. In a 2001 investigation, therapist Emily Pronin solicited a gathering from individuals to rapidly fill in the missing letters in words like GL ___ or _ter. Afterward, Pronin requested that they break down the thing their assertion decisions said about them. Most said that their decisions were pointless, regardless of whether they'd composed gloomy or happy, didn't mirror their character or even their mindset. Nonetheless, when Pronin demonstrated the gathering records finished by others, everything changed. This individual was objective, arranged. The gathering chose, in light of the words picked. Another was worn out. While individuals were certain that their very own pledge decisions were arbitrary, they effectively read into strangers' promised decisions. Pronin's examination focuses on a basic truth. With the littlest flicker of data, we judge individuals we don't know by any means. We're sure about our very own multifaceted nature. However, strangers are simple. All things considered, if there's one thing these sections show us, it's that they are not. we are unequipped for spotting deception. It's human instinct to default to reality. Ana Montes was an insight expert and a model worker at the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA. She was likewise a Cuban government operative who gave over harming U.S. protection and knowledge, privileged insights, to Havana. Looking back, there had been warnings. Her kindred knowledge investigators may have seen that her reports parroted Cuban perspectives, or that she here and there accepted telephone calls during emergencies. Be that as it may, there had never been sufficient to go on past an obscure feeling of doubt. All things considered, what's almost certain? That the investigator sitting before you is one of the most harming covert agents in U.S. history, or that she's simply marginally odd. The issue confronting inner specialists at the DIA was one we as a whole face. We default to reality. We accept honesty until the proof indicating misdirection is overpowering. Therapist Tim Levine runs an analysis where subjects watch recordings of understudies met about a random data test they took an interest in. Individual understudies really working with Levine urge them to swindle. In the recordings, Levine asks the understudies, "Did you cheat? Is it accurate to say that you are certain you're coming clean? If I ask your accomplice, will she disclose to me the equivalent?" Some swindling understudies lie, some fess up right away. Others didn't cheat, so their dissents are honest. The test for Levine's guinea pigs is to watch the recordings and choose who is lying. Levine has run the test commonly, and the outcomes are stressing. All things considered, individuals effectively distinguish liars only 54% of the time. That goes for everybody. Specialists, cops, judges, and even CIA officials are horrendous at telling who's lying. The explanation behind this is basic. By and large, those viewing the recordings accept that the vast majority are coming clean. To tip from doubt to incredulity, spectators need a completely clear trigger. This could be clear unsettling, all-out shirking of eye-to-eye connection, or somebody battling to discover words when straightforwardly blamed for deceiving. Without that trigger, our doubts stay only that, and we accept honesty. A few people are better at spotting deception, however, expecting the fact of the matter is significant for society to work. Maybe society would be in an ideal situation on the off chance that we were better at spotting fraud and deception. In the mid-21st century, a New York lender named Bernie Madoff created a huge number of speculators of over $60 billion, while professing to win them excellent benefits. What's more, for a period, he pulled off it. As one speculator later remarked, if Madoff had essentially been causing things to up, clearly somebody would have taken note. Everybody expected that another person had their eye on the ball. Everybody, that is, yet Harry Markopoulos. A free extortion examiner, Markopoulos wasn't tricked by Madoff's misleading. He saw directly through it, since he doesn't expect that everybody comes clean. Growing up, he saw his folks' eatery business affected by little-scale misrepresentation and burglary, and the experience influenced him. At the point when he investigated Madoff's models, Markopoulos promptly observed that the benefit was incomprehensible. He even called up all the Wall Street brokers managing insubordinates, which Madoff professed to exchange, and inquired as to whether they were working with Madoff. None were. Markopoulos cautioned the money-related administrative body, the Securities and Exchange Commission, about Madoff as right on time as 2000. He cautioned them again in 2001, in 2005, 2007, and 2008. Each time, he got no place. Stop and think for a minute, however. It's extraordinary that there are a few people out there like Markopoulos. Accepting reality serves most of us well. As analyst Tim Levine notes, lies are generally uncommon. In actuality, most associations don't include individuals like Bernie Madoff or Ana Montes. Most associations are on a very basic level genuine. Furthermore, to regard them as though they aren't is problematic. Of course, when the barista at your cafe reveals to you that your biscuit and latte comes to $5.74 with charge, you could whip out your cell phone and check the computation. In any case, you'd hold up the line, and no doubt burning through your and every other person's time. We can observe Harry Markopoulos's discerning wariness, however. For the majority of us, it doesn't generally make a difference that we can't spot lies. Defaulting to truth bodes well, and Bernie Madoff and Ana Montes are anomalies. Life does not look like a scene of Friends. What you see on individuals' appearances doesn't recount to the entire story. Watch a scene of Friends with the sound killed, and you can even now pursue the activity pretty intently. What's going on is composed everywhere throughout the on-screen characters' countenances. When Joey is stunned, his jaw drops and his eyes extend. A furious Ross frowns and limits his eyes, and the entirety of the characters flaunts wide, credible grins and impeccable teeth when upbeat. You can easily figure their countenances out. The exhibitions in Friends are straightforward. Straightforwardness is the possibility that somebody's air uncovers a credible image of their emotions. It's one of the essential desires we have when judging strangers. The issue is that straightforwardness is frequently totally deceptive. Think about this situation. You are driven down a long passage into a dull room. You sit down. You tune in to a chronicle of a short story by the ace of surrealism, Franz Kafka. You step out of the room. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to you, a group of individuals has been working diligently, adjusting the space you'd strolled through before. What was a dull, tight passageway is presently an open region with splendid green dividers. A light hangs over a red seat, and sitting in the seat, gazing at you like something out of a thriller, is your closest companion. Right then and there, what might enroll all over? At the point when two German analysts made this situation for 60 guineas pigs, they asked them that inquiry subsequently. Members accepted they would look astounded. Be that as it may, the outcomes, caught on camera, uncovered that solitary 5% of members demonstrated the great wide eyes, dropped jaws, and cocked eyebrows that we partner with shock. In a further 17%, 2 of these articulations were found. In all the rest, all things considered, nothing recognizable as shock appeared by any means. The analysts inferred that the members' feelings about their probable outward appearances were intensely affected by society's brain science, the caring we gain from watching Friends or perusing books where a stunned hero's eyes go wide in shock. At the point when we take a gander at a more bizarre's face, we want to peruse it like we can peruse Ross in Friends. However, life isn't a scene of Friends, and we can confuse what the stranger is thinking. What's more, as we'll see now, that can have genuine outcomes. At the point when strangers aren't straightforward, we effectively and misinterpret them. A British understudy called Meredith Kercher was killed by a nearby criminal named Rudy Gwed. On November 1st, 2007, the body of evidence against Gwed was dooming. He had a criminal record, and his DNA was dispersed everywhere throughout the crime scene. However, for quite a while, Meredith's flatmate and individual understudy, Amanda Knox, was the main suspect, not Gwed. Knox discovered Kercher's body and called the police, who came to accept that Kercher was slaughtered in a medication-energized sex game turned out badly between Kercher, Knox, and Knox's beau. It was a peculiar end. There was no physical proof tying or, in any event, connecting Knox to the wrongdoing, nor any proof that Knox was keen on sedate-filled, risky sex games. So for what reason would she say she was set apart out as speculate number one from the very start? At last, the body of evidence against Knox was about straightforwardness. The police read her conduct and her character like they were watching Friends with the sound off. While Knox was honest, she acted sort of liable. When Kercher was killed, the vast majority of her companions carried on as you may anticipate, crying and talking in quieted tones. Knox didn't. She was transparently physically tender with her sweetheart, before lamenting companions. When somebody said they trusted Kercher hadn't endured, Knox exclaimed, "What do you think? They cut her throat. She's screwing Seep to death." As Diane Sawyer of ABC News later recommended to Knox in a meeting, that didn't look like pain. Yet, the issue with all that is, a few people just aren't straightforward. They're confounded, or their aura doesn't reflect what they're thinking. How about we return to Tim Levine's recordings of potential con artists? The creator watched one video of a lady his tongue-in-cheek named her Nervous Nellie, who wouldn't quit playing with her hair. At the point when the questioner inquired as to whether she deceived, she got cautious. She squirmed. She rehashed herself, stopping mid-sentence, obviously upset. The creator was persuaded that Nervous Nellie was lying. She wasn't. She simply wasn't straightforward. We believe that liars turn away, fidget their hair, and look disturbed. That is gibberish. A lot of liars will look at you without flinching and lie to your face. Furthermore, a lot of genuine individuals will look to the world similar to, they have a mystery to stow away. Alcohol can exacerbate collaborations between strangers far, with horrible outcomes. Two Swedish understudies recognized a man and lady on the ground outside a Stanford University fraternity house around midnight on January 18th, 2015. Something appeared to be off base. At the point when the understudies moved toward the interlocked pair, the man, rookie Brock Turner, got up and fled. Turner had explicitly attacked the oblivious lady. Experiences like this happen very frequently. Why? All things considered, the Creator accepts that sexual assent between individuals who have quite recently met is infrequently totally clear, even before liquor enters the blend. A 2015 Washington Post survey approached understudies that comprised assent for proceeded with sexual action. 47% accepted that somebody removing their garments comprises assent for going further. 18% accepted that essentially not saying no establishes agree to continue onward. There was no really clear accord on any marker of assent. Furthermore, a dinky circumstance gets considerably murkier when liquor is included. The Creator accepts that liquor makes individuals nearsighted. Alcohol makes us lopsidedly center around momentary needs and disregard long-haul results. Ordinarily, we keep up a harmony between the two. Liquor strips away the long-haul contemplations that confine our conduct. It urges a bashful man to proclaim his cozy emotions. What's more, it can devastate the motivation control of an explicitly forceful adolescent like Brock Turner. Tragically, the intensity of liquor-initiated nearsightedness is ineffectively comprehended. The Washington Post study likewise requested that understudies name gauges that could successfully diminish rape. At the top was harder discipline for assaulters. Only 33% of understudies figured it would be compelling for individuals to drink less, and just 15% concurred with more grounded confinements on liquor accessibility on grounds. In an announcement to the court, Turner's unfortunate casualty said that concentrating on grounds drinking society instead of assent culture or rape on grounds isn't right. As she would see it, men must figure out how to regard ladies, not how to eliminate liquor. Yet, the Creator deviates. He figures we ought to do both. Since as liquor-actuated nearsightedness lets us know whether you need individuals frankly and clear in a social domain, they can't be smashed. Sandra Bland was a casualty of our powerlessness to pass judgment on strangers. A 28-year-old African-American lady, Sandra Bland, was pulled over by a Texas state trooper, Brian Encinia, for neglecting to flag a path change on July 10, 2015. As Bland brought up, be that as it may, she'd just switched to another lane because Encinia had forcefully determined up behind her. She'd essentially attempted to escape his way as fast as could reasonably be expected. Dull made her bothering unmistakable. When Encinia then asked, "Are you done?" is more likely than not felt to Bland, similar to an incitement. Encinia later asserted not to have implied it that way. Flat lit a cigarette, attempting to quiet her nerves. Encinia requested that he put it out. Insipid cant, for what reason would it be advisable for her to? Encinia could have said, "You're correct. I have no privilege to ask you that. I'm simply not an enthusiast of smoke." But he didn't. He requested that she step out of her vehicle. From that point, things raised. Tasteless would not move, and Encinia began yelling, undermining her with an immobilizer. In the long run, he hauled her out of the vehicle and pummeled her to the ground. Tasteless inquired as to whether he liked what he'd done, and referenced that she had epilepsy. Great, answered Encinia, After 3 days, Bland, it is asserted, ended it all in police authority. Anyway, what does this repulsive circumstance let us know? Indeed, as per the Creator, it shows the habit of defaulting to reality at an inappropriate time. When Insinia pulled Bland over, he was rehearsing an entrenched policing approach that many accept works in horror territories, halting drivers for minor petty criminal offenses to make a chance to search for more noteworthy wrongdoings. In any case, this looks bad in a low wrongdoing region like the stretch of interstate that Bland was driving along. Insinia relinquished his presumption of truth when he shouldn't have. This additionally helps us to remember how defective straightforwardness is. Insinia imagined that he could translate the character from the disposition. In any case, Bland wasn't straightforward. Her fomentation was an indication of stress, not a criminal purpose. The Creator accepts that when Bland lit a cigarette, Insinia was panicked. He saw a hazardous risk instead of somebody attempting to quiet her nerves. Insinia thought he realized how to converse with strangers. However, he didn't. Truth be told, a large portion of us don't. There are a few different ways we can show signs of improvement, and the most ideal approach, to begin, is to quit making presumptions.